Guys, for joining us here in May. I can't believe it's already almost the end of May, but we are getting some rain and sunshine here in the Montana side of Eastern Montana side. And hopefully you guys are getting the same in your areas. I'm going to kick things off this morning with our board of director, Luke France. He's one of our newest board of directors and also represents our young producers as well. So Luke, I'll kick it over to you and get this thing started and let us know a little bit about your guys' operation and how you joined United States Cattlemen's Association.
Yeah. Welcome everybody. Thanks for for hopping on and thanks for having me. Like you said, my name is Luke France. I am I haven't been on the board of directors a year yet, but we're coming right up on it. I think next month it'll be about a year. Um, a little bit about me in our operation. We're in South Central Illinois, mostly background cattle. Like right now is kind of our busy season. We do mostly on grass. And I'd been a part of other groups and in the past, and I had a friend who's actually the Indiana region board of director, and really was interested in what was going on here at the USCA, and I waited and waited until there was an open position in this region. Just was really excited, really fired up to join and be on the board. Seems like the group, at least beforehand, and now I can confirm it, having being in it, but they really do a lot for the producer. It's not just everybody get on a meeting and kind of saber rattle or complain. There's a lot of solutions that are brought to the table and a lot of good discussions. So I'm biased, but I think this is best group to be a part of.
Well, thank you, Luke. Do I have any other United States Cattlemen's board members on today that maybe want to just say hi real quick, like? Quite a bunch. I wasn't sure on those phone numbers there that have joined us. Thank you to those that have joined us. We're just getting started with the program today. So next up, I'll kick things off to Mary Gwen Morrow with Superior Livestock, and she's going to talk to us today about value-added programs and what that means and how those programs can maybe help your guys' bottom dollar. So I'll kick it over to you, Mary Gwen.
Thank you, Maggie, for inviting me to join you today. I am with Superior Livestock. I've worked for them for a little over 35 years now. I've been the value-added program spokesman since 2012, or actually a little longer than that. But as we get ready for this big marketing summer season, we're all excited to get going. You asked me to talk pretty much about your younger people coming into the business and how they can build their value in their product. I always recommend to people that call into Superior Livestock to start with the basics. Start with your genetics. Start with your herd health handling, and vaccination programs. Probably the most important with Superior Livestock, starting with your vaccination protocols. Superior Livestock developed one of the industry's leading vaccination protocol back in 1994, and since that time, a lot of pharmaceuticals have jumped on the bandwagon, and they are following those same protocols that we set up quite a few years ago. And with that good vaccination program, actually our buyers pretty much demand that the livestock that we offer for sale does have a good vaccination protocol. Our website, you can go to our website at superiorlivestock.com, and under the value added tab, you can go to the vaccination protocols and understand exactly what those protocols are. Our basic is for a VAC 34 and a 34 plus program. That's for calves nursing pregnant cows. The 34 stands for 1 round of shots in the fall, 3 to 4 weeks prior to delivery. 34 plus indicates that the calves had a round of vaccinations at branding, as well as 3 to 4 weeks in the fall. Our protocol does require that the calves have a minimum of 7-way blackleg vaccination and a 5-way viral. Our protocol requires that 5-way viral is a chemically altered or a modified live 5-way, which includes your IBR, PI3, BRSV, and a type 1 and 2 BVD. There's several pharmaceutical companies out there that do meet our requirements. And a list of those approved vaccinations are also listed on our website. When we finish up with the VAC 34, then we go into a 45 program, which is for weaned calves. The 45 indicates that those calves will be weaned a minimum of 45 days. A VAC 45 program requires that the calves, again, have 2 rounds of vaccinations, preferably 3 to 4 weeks prior to weaning, and then with a booster according to the label instructions. A 45 plus indicates that those calves have had 3 rounds of vaccinations, including a internal and external wormer. Every year we have Kansas State University do a analysis of our sales throughout the year, and they indicate that a VAC 34 combo can create a premium for your product up to about $2.60 per hundredweight. A VAC 45 on a wean calf, of course, a wean calf's a little bit more appealing because the buyer is ready to just go right on feeding that calf. And those premiums can be as much as $6 to $8 a hundredweight. Then we have a VAC 60 and a VAC Precon program that also follow along those same lines. I know Maggie kind of labeled this as there's more than just the tag. And I think what she's talking about there when she indicates is getting into the third-party verification programs. And Superior Livestock does recognize the agent source verification, which would be the very basic third-party verification program. It does, all of these agent source programs do require an RFID tag. And if you start with that as your basic value-added program, then you can go on and add NHTC, non-hormone treated cattle, as well as a third-party verified natural. Again, those programs do require the RFID tag. My recommendation and what I've seen over the years and working with these third-party verification companies, the start of their process is a enrollment in the age source program, and they will, the basic of the agent source is an audit that is done generally over the telephone. But if you want to add the verified natural and NHTC, then it does require a a third-party on-site audit. So when you decide you're going to market, and Superior requires that those third-party verified programs have already been enrolled in. So as far as timing for those, I'm going to say give yourself at least 2 to 3 week programs. Superior also has lots of other eye candy. Value-added programs. We recognize again the progressive genetics. We have partnerships with some programs, mineral programs. We recognize and give a little eye candy when we're selling for multi-min. We just partnered up with therapies. Any of those eye candy logos that you see across the Superior Livestock screen indicate the added value that you've added to the product that you're marketing. Do you have any questions out there, Maggie? Is there anything else you want me to cover?
We'll open up the floor here. Any of our guests on today have any questions on any other added value programs or anything I guess along the topics? If not, I
think that just to give you an indication of what the premiums that you might recognize with those age source verification and NHTC programs, I would say would probably be, and generally it's best to bundle your NHTC and verified natural. If the calves happen to fall out of the verified natural, they still qualify for the NHTC. The NHTC does qualify your cattle for European export. That premium can be as much as $3.50 a hundred. I think Kansas City's analysis last year throughout the entire year indicated about $3.56 per hundredweight. I did fail to mention there's also another program called GAP. It's a global animal partnership, about the same premium throughout the entire year. So one thing with all of these value-added programs, and especially the GAP program, the backgrounders, or the harvesters, when you get ready to harvest those cattle, GAP, there are so many slots for GAP cattle, and so many variables that come into play as to what those premiums may be at what time, because they allot slots for those GAP cattle, and the variables include anywhere from when the cattle are marketed to when they deliver to when the possible harvest date may be. So there's a lot of variation in the premiums in a GAP program.
Perfect. Any questions out there? I guess with kind of seeing how the markets are going right now, Mary Gwen, do you believe that these programs would make even a bigger difference or kind of stay the same as kind of where they were last year?
Well, boy, the market is just absolutely phenomenal right now, and we are at Superior Livestock. We are already selling a lot of forward contracts for cattle already next fall. I think probably we'll see generally the same premium as we have in years past. I think we're just also blessed that the market is just incredible right now, and even cattle that may not have third-party value-added programs. If you start with your basic and a very good vaccination program, BQA, Beef Quality Assurance, that's a program that's free to enroll in, something that we recognize. The packing houses are requiring it on a lot of cattle coming from their backgrounders. It's a requirement for truck drivers. I would start there and enroll in that program. It's like I said, it's free. Their certification is good for 3 years. I just think that we are just in a unprecedented time. These prices are just incredible, and I hope they carry out throughout the fall. We're starting our big summer season and our big summer sales, and look forward to just a great market throughout it.
Yeah, yes. Hopefully everything holds. Jess, you got anything to add?
No, I just thank you so much, Mary. I really appreciate that overview as a intro to these source verified programs. I've greatly appreciated Superior's work in this arena. We are GAP 4 and NHTC qualified, verified, and marketed quite a bit of cattle. Not well for our terms, a fair amount of cattle on your Winnemucca sale last summer, and it's a good one. It's a good one. And just kind of curious, what are you seeing this year? Is that Winnemucca? I mean, I think you have the largest amount of program cattle. Is that Winnemucca remaining? Will that remain the top video sale for program cattle? When you say they all go into that sale, or is there a few more out there? They're going to have a fair amount of listing of those program cattle too. And this is for the yearling side.
Well, and our Winnemucca auction is so geared to West Coast cattle.
Yeah.
And so and a lot of those producers do participate in the value-added programs as well as the GAP program. We see the prices on those GAP cattle start to change kind of after the Winnemucca sale, because a lot of those slots are being filled up because of that. So we generally see a lot more, especially the GAP cattle, on our Week in the Rockies auction, and then on our Winnemucca auction in early August. So I anticipate it'll be exactly the same as it has been in years past.
So you said more so, not that July sale, but the Week in the Rockies. What's the dates on that? And then you have an August Winnemucca. We were on that July. I think it's July.
Well, Winnemucca is always the very beginning of end of August, end of July, beginning of August.
Okay.
Our Winnemucca sale this year is July 28th through August 1st. And our Week in the Rockies auction, which will be held in Steamboat Springs this year, is July 7th to 11th.
Okay. Very helpful. No, it is amazing to and thank you for getting some it's probably not, can figure out how you got all those buttons. I mean, we obviously have all the third party as far as, Samson, or not, we're Samson earth claims for obviously the NHTC source verified and GAP, but I was wondering how you got there. There is no one that competes with Superior on the buttons. So thank you for giving some background on that. I didn't know the multivan, because one of our cattle partners is just insisting that we're putting multivan in. So now I see why he's so big on that. So it's a button. So that's
Well, and
Um,
just a heads up, the multi-min button shows up on sale day on the screen. It's not one that'll show in the catalog.
okay.
But it is another one that'll show up on the screen as your cattle are selling.
You run out of ink if you put all those buttons, I think, in your
Well,
magazine. So it's a lot
we've
of
run out
buttons.
of room on our
Yeah.
listings in the
Yeah.
catalog. I think the catalog will allow
Yeah.
10 little logos across the bottom of a contract. And we have a lot of customers that have more than that. If you start with a BQA and then go to a VAC program and then progressive genetics, and then you get into age source, NHTC, verified natural, natural plus into, yeah, it just seemed, they just keep adding them. And of
Yeah.
course,
Yeah.
our producers are more, it just has really changed since I started with Superior 35 years ago, and especially Jim Davis or Allie Bear, all of those good reps out there in that are big participants in that Winnemucca auction. I can remember when I first started, there was a cow of every color, size, shape, as well as a bull. And those reps have really done an excellent job helping their customer improve the genetics of the cattle that are being offered on those sales. And I look forward to these summer sales. And again, the Winnemucca one's always a fun one for the people out there in the Northwest and that area out there. So
Yeah, yeah. Well, no, that's very, very helpful. Thank you for all that. And I would say that too. I think the reps are the ones that are the closest to the producer. And I think even just both on marketing those cattle, but then on shipping day. And I think, certainly when we had it there, the Superior was just did an incredible job. I think, it's always something to market cattle, but it's also something that on shipping day, everyone's always a little anxious. And I think you've set those protocols in place. And I'm glad you were Allie. I know Allie from ways back. Of course, I think, yeah, I think the reps have done a lot. And then too, as I always say, I'm a recovering cow calf. I'll get back to the cow calf on the next phase here, but you really notice it when I'm glad we talked about vaccine programs. That there's something of someone saying, oh yeah, no, these cattle have had their shots, and then those that are saying they're doing it and those that are saying it not really doing it. So I commend Superior and everyone in the video market business. You all have really kind of upped the ante on that. You've put the pressure on the seller, and I think the buyers. I can say on the buying side, we truly put a lot more trust in those programs because you all work so hard. We're multi-use. We're buying on the northern south, and we're moving cattle here and there. But I really credit the video market. Not saying the sale barn wasn't there, but it's tough on a sale day when you're bringing in loads and loads and loads of cattle to say every one of those. And I know sale barns have done an incredible job, but it really feels like video markets. You guys have really kind of upped the ante to try to get. And then you say, all right, these got the shots. These have this. These have that. So I think you've kind of upped that standard. It should have been there all the way. We shouldn't have just been telling stories. So I appreciate what you've done because we're noticing that. We know now on these higher end quality cattle sales, source verified sales, we're noticing that impact. So hats off to you for making that happen.
well, and I think also you as a buyer recognize when you receive those cattle, the health. And
Yes.
it doesn't
Yes.
take you very long to recognize whether really, the contract is true to what it said. And, but we've tried, especially in the last year and are going forward, our buyers have become very vocal about those vaccination programs. And if you notice, we changed our protocol just a little bit since last year, and instead of 2 to 4 weeks prior to delivery, we're requiring those sellers to go out to 3 weeks, 3 to 4 weeks, and then that way they kind of get through the sweat before the buyer gets them. And most of the protocols or those recommendations by the pharmaceutical companies have a 21-day timing for a booster. And so that's why we backed it up to 3 to 4 weeks instead of the 2 to 4, so that you don't receive something that hadn't quite got through it yet. But
Yeah.
and
Especially at these prices and where they're at. I mean, you pay an
Right.
extra, 50 to 100 bucks a head. You want to know that all happened, which Maggie's going to lead to our next conversation coming out with livestock handling equipment. And now, with all that stuff on the market, a lot of times, again, going back to your reps, it was, well, we don't have the facilities. Well, we're out here doing this and that. And I think now with the mobility of livestock handling facilities, get them in, get them worked. And as you said, the timing of when you get them worked. So I think the old days of just, well, we gather them off the planes and we threw them on the truck. It's just, it's nice. And it's a nice concept if you can be in that situation, but it doesn't help the further down the chain stuff. And so I know we're going to be talking about that too, Maggie, with livestock handling equipment. And we have all these great options out now that you can just run a set of working corrals out there. And with what video auction companies like Superior are paying, you can put that money into your working corrals or improve your corrals because there's value on the other side, and you'll be dinged if you don't have it. So just fascinating to see how that industry works together. Well, I won't want to dominate. Just thank you, Mary Gwen. I'm appreciative, especially from our perspective, where and I'll just share this for the rest of folks on Next Gen. So many times folks say, well, getting into this cattle business or how it works and the cost and are there opportunities? Program cattle is where we saw from our operation. Of course, we have multiple cattle partners, multiple leases. I say partners. It's one guy that said he's helping buy, and we're all marketing together. It is a very complex deal in the sense of bringing folks in to cover on some of that overhead because they cost a little bit when you're buying these cattle. But from our perspective, the program cattle is another way to make our business plan work and actually pencil. So I would encourage folks, and I commend Superior and others. I mean, I don't want to call it Superior, but that you all worked with those folks. And I would encourage folks out there, go, just as Mary Gwen said, go talk to your rep, learn about this stuff. There is additional revenue out there, and there is some margins out there that you can utilize. Now it's kind of tough. There's not a lot of big differentiation. We're not seeing much of differentiation, but program cattle for us are when these calves fall back down on the markets. It's to get that day in, day out, a little bump above the rest of them. And so again, we just commend you all because we knew it was kind of an investment in your situation. I would encourage all the next geners out there to look into that. Not that you have to, but look at what's out there. And there's more than just one option. And I think you all at Superior have really done a good job of saying what works for your operation. Let's get you in that marketing set. And so hats off to you for that. And all those next geners out there, get in touch and learn more about this.
Hey, Jess, Michael Cruz here. I just wanted
there's
to,
a rep right there. There's a rep right there that told us how to do it, right, Michael?
Yeah, I'm a rep for the other guys there.
Well, they're
So
all the
I rep
market.
for,
They're all in the same deal. Yeah.
Yep. I rep for Northern here, and just a couple things I wanted to add to Mary's coverage there. She did a great job, but especially for next gen guys, if you're going that NHTC gap program kind of route, I've helped a lot of people kind of get started on it, and just from what I've seen, there's a couple things I would certainly recommend to a young guy. And the first thing would be, if you have a little bit of genetic tuning yet to do to kind of get your cattle where you want them, do that first before you enter these programs. The buyers that buy these calves are very picky and have very high standards. And if they get your calves and they're excited about them and they're not cracked up to what they're supposed to be, that's a major turnoff, and it just makes it hard to market those things in the future. The other thing I would suggest too, if you do got the cattle for the program, is to stick with it for, you got to stick with it at least 2 to 3 to maybe even 4 or 5 years, because like I said, this is a selective group of buyers, and when you're stepping into that realm there, it's going to take you a little bit, and you might not even see a premium in your first year doing these like you were promised it, or it might be a small premium. So don't let that discourage you. If you got the cattle for it, dang sure stick to it, and it's going to pay dividends in the end.
There you go.
I agree with you completely. it takes time to build a reputation, and start again, just like you said, start with your basics and then build into these value-added programs as you see what you can handle. And you're starting out, you got to build that reputation. We all are. My goal, my husband and I are producers, and our goal was to attract that repeat buyer, somebody that knew, and he would bump that price and still pay a good price because he knew how the cattle would perform and would buy them over and over. And if the basics aren't there, and especially the vaccination program, and if he happens to get a set that weren't quite right, then, just build your reputation and be persistent. Don't get discouraged. And I'm at any time will take any phone calls to try and help anybody to get started and know where to go to start. And I've got a phone book full of phone numbers for all of these value-added programs, and lots of good people to talk to. A lot of good people to talk to. So thank you for my time. I really appreciate it. I feel like it's been kind of dominated your hour here. So my number at Superior Livestock is 1-800-523-6610. Feel free to give me a call anytime.
All right, thank you so much, Mary Gwen. Mary Gwen has helped our family's operation. My dad is also a Superior Livestock rep, so she's probably worked with Justin just more times than she probably wants to, but definitely appreciative for accepting the time and presenting to us. It was great to hear what you had to say, and thank you again, and good luck with Superior Sales coming right up along the road. And I might be having them in the background and annoying my office, but that's the only way I know how to get things done, is have an auctioneer rambling in the background. So thank you again, Mary Gwen. And talking about auctions, I'm gonna switch things over to Dunlap Auction, Livestock Auction. Is John with us here? He did have a sale today, so we might have to jump over to him on another time.
I see it. I see it,
Maggie,
John.
are you there?
I
It's just,
am here.
Meg, you got to realize Shavens, they get kind of nervous. They can't handle a lot of attention in the public spotlight. They're kind of shy folks, so we just got to kind of coax them along here.
Make sure that Jess understands that I have a little dirt on him, so he might want to be quiet.
Okay.
Yeah.
I will connect
Doesn't seem to be you
sometime.
have a very good connection there, John. Sorry, we're losing you there, buddy. Welcome.
Well, John, I just kick things off over with you. How are things in your markets going around in the Iowa, Nebraska area that you guys cover?
Maggie, first of all, thanks a bunch for having me, and I apologize a little bit for being on the road. And I am driving safely, or I should say my wife is driving safely as I'm visiting with you. So obviously market conditions, as it was addressed before, it's fair to say unprecedented, obviously, when you're at all-time highs. We this week in our Fed cattle auction, we had steers at 230. And it's people say, can you believe it? And I look back and the market has always had a tendency to go find its high, and from the previous time, and it wasn't that long ago this thing didn't look near that good, 4 or 5 years ago, and it has and I think from a market condition standpoint, one of the obviously there was lots of unfortunate things about COVID and everything it did to our market. It also cleaned up a lot of cows because people decided to get out of business, and now we're in this numbers mess that our industry's in, and people might say, well, we've got these high prices, but if you run a livestock auction market, there probably isn't hardly anybody that isn't addressing a number situation. In the Midwest, Maggie, unfortunately, we've been fighting it for a long time, um, losing available ranch pasture land to farming. And hopefully these prices can do a little bit to maybe change that course. Unfortunately, we haven't, we're not seeing any heifer retention at all. And our weigh cow numbers are basically steady. So if the cow herd's smaller and we're not keeping any more heifers back and we're still selling the same number of weigh cows we did a year ago, it doesn't look like expansion to me. And I'm not an economist that trends that stuff, but I can just see that. I mean, there's just going to be less of them around, and that's going to continue to cause the scramble that there is. I would like to say one thing, because I've heard this a lot in the last few months as these cattle have gotten a little higher. And everybody says we have to be careful that our product doesn't get too high in the marketplace. And we have to be careful, that we're going to not get consumer pushback. And I think that is a fallacy that's been pushed a long time to producers to tell them not to accept prosperity and be happy with it. If we want to sell cattle at the levels we're selling them at today, we're going to have the retail marketplace sell beef higher. And it looks to me like we're doing that just fine. I haven't seen any of the pushback. And I guess I'm quick to point out, it's mind-boggling to me to think that hamburger that costs $5 a pound is high, and a Subway sandwich the other day when I went in and got nothing else cost $16. So I just tell producers, I've heard about all these great cattle we're producing. Stand up, be proud of it. Um, Premium products incur a premium, and that's I think cattle industry has done. We've made our cattle better over the last 20 years. We've put more marbling in them and taken less fat and taken more fat off of them. And so I just throw credit to the producers. I'm thrilled to death that they finally got a level of prosperity and that actually makes them get their bills paid, makes them think about putting a new corral in, reinvesting in their pastures and all the things that they can do. So for that, I'm really excited for our producers right now.
Oh, perfect. And John, I know you guys are kind of getting busy here gearing up for the Livestock Marketing Association's annual convention. Do you want to talk any points on what to be expecting here come the 1st of June?
Well, that's awful nice of you to bring it up. And of course, for those on the call that don't know, Maggie's dad's outfit's going to host this thing next year. So everybody will get to head to the Black Hills, which I know has got them all excited. There's not not as many aesthetic values in Omaha, Nebraska than there is where Anja is. But hopefully we're going to show them a good time. Yeah, that contest is coming up June 5th. Physical auction will be in Dunlap on Saturday, June 7th, with an auction starting at 8 o'clock in the morning. Looks like we might have somewhere up towards 6,000 cattle on that auction. So we're pretty excited about that. The annual meetings, and of course, this is put on by the Livestock Marketing Association. This is their trade show and their annual meetings. They'll start on Thursday, June 5th in Omaha, Nebraska, and a whole array of topics that affect livestock auctions and competitive livestock marketing, will be discussed over a 3-day period there. But the crown jewel is that contest on Saturday, and we're going to hear 31 of the best auctioneers across the United States and Canada compete for that title. And one quick footnote on the contest: there's 3 regional contests that 10 auctioneers qualify in each contest to make this top 31, and then the person who wins the contest in Calgary, Canada at Stampede gets a buy into the contest. So an ironic thing this year, the winner of the contest in Calgary, Canada is a young man from Montana, And then the 3 regional contests, 2 of those were won by Canadians, and a Canadian got third in the other. So I told people, if you're betting on this like a horse race, the Canadians are going to sure be some of the favorites. There's no doubt. And so we're really excited about it. It's really interesting if you've never been to one of these contests. There's obviously regional differences in styles. You know, someone from California is going to have a different style than somebody from Alabama. And obviously, somebody from Texas will have a different style than somebody from Calgary, Canada. It makes it really interesting. But there's 5 judges to evaluate the contest that day, and plus there's an interview portion with it. So it's a great way to showcase price discovery, the auction method of marketing, and how important competition is in our industry. If our industry has one big fault, Maggie, it's the most competitive thing I've ever been around until the day becomes to market fed cattle. And all of a sudden, everybody drops all their competitive natures and just wants to hand them over to a packer and says, well, you give us what they're worth. And that's a problem, I think, in our industry. It's a big problem. It ain't just a small one. It's a big one. And it's the one we haven't addressed enough. And I'm telling you, if we're not careful, this thing's going to tip over and people say, oh, come on, John, what are you talking about? In my lifetime, I've watched a hog industry leave leave the independent nature of it. There is no such thing basically as an independent hog producer. Obviously, we know what's happened in the chicken industry. Both of those deals lost price discovery. There was no method to achieve a viable market anymore. I don't want that to happen here, especially when we have such a great way of determining value for a cow-calf producer. We just need to make sure it stays that way in the fed cattle sector.
Mhm. Yes, yes. Well, thank you, John, and best of luck with hosting the contest there coming up. And yep, like John said, St. Ange Livestock, my family's sale barn in South Dakota, will be hosting it next year. So we're excited to have it come and work with the Livestock Marketing Association and everything here coming up in 2026. Can't believe it's going to be right around the corner if the year goes the way it has been now. So thank you again, John, so much for jumping on. Enjoy. I hope you have a good sale today. Safe travels the rest of your journey. And we're going to jump over to Jack Alexander and let him talk to us a little bit about what steps we can be taking now to help us come the drier months and drought prevention. So Jack, I'll kick things over to you.
Good. Well, everybody else got to talk about the highest cattle market in history, and I'm going to talk about drought. So we'll end we're going to end the call, what could be a down note, but we're going to talk about how to make drought not as bad. So the biggest part of drought is the time to be planning for drought, for the next drought is now. And that even if you are in a drought, you need to be working on your next drought. Is having a drought plan is critical. And one of the biggest reasons for that is that, and it goes a little bit with what John just said, is that we shift from science and math and numbers to and money to emotions when we get into a drought. There's a lot of tools available for producers now, for anybody to look. The National Drought Index, you can just Google that, look it up and see where you are. And they have great analysis, and no one can predict how long a drought's going to last. The Dust Bowl, they used to say, every day we're one day closer to it raining. The other part of that is if it's raining and when things are good, we're one day closer to the next drought every day. So I realize with the USCA, we've got droughts pretty different. If you're in Sumter, Georgia, and you usually get 60 inches of rain, if you only get 48 inches of rain, you're in a drought. And then Bert Paris and some of our members that are in Kinzum, those guys that are in the West, and they're usually get 4 inches of rain, they're in a drought if they get 3 inches. They'd love to have 4 feet of rain in their worst drought. So why that matters is you got to know what your drought means to you. If you're somewhere where the grass stays for a long time, then you can plan on using the drought stored. If you're somewhere where your quality degrades, 10% or 20% a month, you can't stockpile your forage for multiple years. So the key is to know what your forage base is, what your ranch is, and how to use it. And the other is to put down, just go ahead and write down when you're going to sell. If it is dry for 3 weeks in Georgia, do you need to start taking action? Right now it's easy. The clients I work with, super easy. Well, it's a little dry. What should we do? Well, we should call because this is the highest cull cows have ever been. Maybe if it's wet, we should call anyway. Is to go ahead and put your plan together and say, if it's dry, it's only going to be dry this long, and then I'm going to take action. And here are the cows I'm going to call. Or I'm going to wean early, and here's how early I'm going to wean. I have a plan. Because one of the things that working with ranchers and working with people in ag is, to talk to them, they seem like the biggest pessimists in the world. But to work with them, they're the biggest optimists because there's never been a rancher that doesn't believe it's just going to rain tomorrow. And that next year is going to be the best year. The market's going to be the highest it ever is, and the grass is the greenest. Because that's how you can get out of bed and go work this hard. So put your drought plan together, write it down, work with your extension specialist, work with your consultant, work with USCA, figure out how you're going to put that drought plan together, what it's going to be, and then you got to have the resolve to stick to it when it happens. If you put a good drought plan together, you should be able to break even or make money even in a drought because you're ahead of the game. Because the worst thing to do is wait until, well, Maggie, you know this, your dad knows this. If it's been dry for a year in South Dakota, all of a sudden you're going to have sales that run 24 hours or 48 hours. And you are not bringing a premium on anything. You're just have a way to have it not starve to death. So don't be one of the guys that's at hour 43. Justin's great. Justin can really sell a cow, but Justin's having a hard time selling a cow, a condition score 1 cow, after he just sold 4,000 other ones. The other part of drought planning is to go. If you're in the West, you may be able to make your best calves and have your cows in the best condition when it's dry. If you have enough forage weathers well then, and then the nutrient concentration tends to be high on Western forages in a drought. They're short and the amounts, your total quantity is late, but a lot of us on Western rangelands, you don't run out of forage, you run out of drinking water. So the planning you have to do there is, how are we going to have water when it's dry? Is there a way that we can pump water to different places? Can we haul water to parts of our pastures that never get grazing? Can we go to another, do we have somebody who's going to let us go to the pasture that has no water that they don't lease? A lot of these absentee owners they don't want to maintain it, but in a drought, suddenly it's worth doing. It's cheaper to haul water than feed generally. And then the other question that comes up is, can you feed your way to a profit during a drought? In school, you learn, no, you can't do it. But if you have a plan, you're creative, you're the guy who's outside of the box, you may be able to do it. And that may be by having low quality feed that you're able to get while it was still raining that people didn't want. You were able to have that stockpile it, and you have a drought plan that you're going to feed basically junk hay. When it's dry and you got it for $60 a ton, and during the drought it's selling for $360. Although what I'd advise you do is go ahead and sell your cows and sell that junk hay for $360 and make money on both sides. But if you're ahead of the game, there's ways to get to it. On rangeland, so for the western 2/3 of the country, what we know is that we're in perpetual drought interrupted by periods of monsoon. And in the east, you're in less frequent drought, but your droughts are quicker and more severe. I work with some people. If it doesn't rain for 3 weeks, their forage falls off, and they have to enact their drought plan. I think, some of us that are on this call, if it went 3 weeks without raining, you would just go like, oh, it's a regular 3 weeks of July. We're getting rain in July or August. It's pretty unusual for a lot of us. And so that's it. We got a couple of minutes for questions, Maggie.
Yeah, thank you, Jack. Is there any questions out here before I might have a few if needed to? We got a quiet bunch this morning, which is fine. I guess starting out getting out chores. I know in the past, and especially kind of like this year when people have talked about rain, they've said it's been timely rain. Can you kind of explain what those timely rains, Jack, might mean to, ranchers, and maybe holding off in that rainstorm here in August that kind of held them through until, when they were starting their weaning programs or getting ready to get calves out to the sale in the fall?
Yeah, that when rain comes is more important than how much you get. We've been getting these beautiful rains in Montana, and so everyone around me has to hear, oh, nothing in my life can't be fixed by a good 2-inch soaking rain. I used to hear the old men say that when I was a little kid. And now I know what it means. That if it rains slowly on plants that are actively growing and you get warmth afterwards, 2 inches of rain spread out over a month is going to be better than 6 inches of rain that came in the spring in a big time. If it rains when it's cold, plants can't use it as well as it rains when it is. Just south of you, Maggie, is the greatest example, or where you grew up is the best example of that. Sandhills in Nebraska, well-drained soils, 15-inch precip zone, and it produces tall grasses where just immediately north and south of it doesn't. And a lot of that is it rains in May and June. 15 inches in rain in June is way better than 15 inches in 15 inches of snow blowing sideways in Fargo, North Dakota in January. So.
And I wanted
Just
well, I wanted to jump in there. I wouldn't even be even where I'm anywhere at on any of the leased ranches we have without Jack Alexander. He's always going to be too humble. And two, with the turnout here too, want to make sure folks know, and a lot of folks are going to be listening to this in the podcast version. So I'm glad we have some podcast stars amongst us here this morning. So know that your knowledge will live on forever in the podcast. I don't know the sphere of that. That's Bria, Jenna, Colleen, and the crew here, Mary Jo, doing the great work there. So yeah, a few things from just kind of follow up on Jack's perspective. I think, well, I won't say that the size of acres, because it sounds like we'll be telling some, tall tales, but let's just say, not that Jack's results are guaranteed in this faction, but I think we started out on just less than a section of consulting that I was utilizing to get an out-of-state owner to let me lease, and now let's just say it's a few more than one section now, thanks to working with Jack on going out there and building out grazing plans, especially on these lease places that we have utilize. A lot of these large landowners, out-of-state owners, thanks to folks like Jack, we're able to get in there. A couple things. I know we got just a few minutes, but just out there, I'll just have Jack do kind of the 30 seconds. on some of the apps that are out there. I'm still not quite as privy as I should be on those apps, but Jack will give a brief touch on that. And then, of course, too, just a big shout out. Jack Alexander was very, very instrumental in helping out with Good Grazing Makes Sense. And so you can find that online just by Googling it, and we'll have that information out there. Of course, Mary Jo Foley-Burncott's been very helpful there. So it's kind of the starter kit, if you will, to all the things that if you're like me, the first time you hear a Jack Alexander presentation, go, yes. Okay, yeah, I'm gonna I love it. And that's as much as I'm gonna get. I was very inspired, and then I leave going, yeah, I can never make that happen. You can check out Good Grazing Makes Sense. And then you'll find out that Jack's very, very approachable on all levels to get some calls in and whatnot. So grateful for that, grateful for Jack's time, grateful everyone on this call and those that are listening via podcast. But I'll turn over to Jack just to, as we hit that hour mark. Jack, these apps that are out there, and are interesting. I'm even when I talk about being intimidated, I'm intimidated on those apps, but you're not, Jack. Talk a little bit about the apps and how folks can get involved there.
Thanks, Jess. That's very kind of you to say. As a consultant, I can guarantee you one thing on drought, you will have another one. We are an interesting time on the apps. You know, I get teased all the time because I don't have a weather app. I have a weather folder. We're able to have all the information that NOAA has on our phone, and we can look at it, analyze it, and have people. We've got a handful of apps to help us do our grazing management. I'm watching the time, Maggie. We've got Maya, Pasture Map, some of the others. And the other one is we've got a lot of apps just to do it. I'm not going to recommend any of them because I'm still trying to figure out what are the best ones because every day it's new. But what we have figured out with producers is you need to have that information on your phone with you because you're not going to carry your office with you all the time anymore. And you're not going to go sit in your office as much as you used to because you do have the ability to have that. Go ahead and work with your reps, RangeBot, RanchBot, Enriched Ag, all of these guys. They're great tools. Have tools so that you can do your planning and get ahead of the game. Did I end on the minute, Maggie?
You are just fine, just fine. Thank you again,
He's
guys.
going to recruit you to St. Ange Livestock. You better be careful there, Jack.
That's like my dream. That's what I want to do as a kid.
Perfect. We can always use the help. Perfect. Thank you guys again so much for joining us. These are monthly. We have set them that they are going to be at 7 a.m. Mountain Time every month. If you want to be on that reoccurring calendar, reach out to me, Maggie at wssdc.com, and I will certainly get that calendar invite sent. So it's just permanently on your calendar for the third Thursday of every month. Next month, Jess had kind of stole my thunder there just a little. We're going to be talking a little bit about ranch equipment, or not equipment, but corral facilities that can be mobile for wherever rich region pasture that you're needing. So definitely be joining us in for next month's call. If you have any ideas or have any questions, please again reach out. My phone number also is 406-670-0530. I'm always willing to take some time and sit down and chat, get away from the computer for a little bit. Or you might catch me driving between Montana and South Dakota. So thank you again, everyone. Have a great rest of your Thursday. Have a